like as I said, sometime I will.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all for a seminar on digital education, issues, challenges, and solutions by Center of Policy Research and Governance. Before we start with our session, I would like to give a brief introduction of CPRG and introduce our moderator for today. Center of Policy Research and Governance is an organization of inquisitive brains from all walks of life with a high level of experience in education, economics, democracy, and governance issues. We work with analyzing and formulation of the policies in the fields. We have published several types of research in various areas of education, social issues and economic issues, governance, agriculture, and international relations. Previously, we've worked on many topics in collaboration with the state governments and reputed institutes, some of which are with the Himachal Pradesh state government in the sustainable development models for the hilly states in new emerging India. We are also researching the relevance of Gandhian economic models in the contemporary time in collaboration with ICSSR in the state of Delhi and Assam, the educational challenges faced by scheduled tribes with the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. We are also studying the impact of COVID-19 on educational institutes in the state of Uttarakhand. Currently, we've signed MOUs with premier institutes like OP Jindal Global University, St. Stephen's College, Hindu College, etc. Students from various universities like Harvard, National University Singapore attend our educational and internship programs. Our moderator for today is Sudhakar Upadhyay. He has completed BTech from NIT Bhopal in 2017, MA in Development Studies from TISS Mumbai in 2020, and is currently pursuing PhD from JNU New Delhi. While working as a research fellow with MyNEP, a dedicated forum for implementation of National Education Policy 2020. With this, I hand over to Sudhakar. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupal, for the introduction. So taking forward, I would like to introduce two of the esteemed speakers that we have for today. Professor Aarti Srivastav, ma'am. Ma'am has completed her PhD. She is professor in Department of Higher and Professional Education at NIPA and also coordinator for National Resource Center for Education in NIPA only. Along with ma'am, Tarun Chaubisa sir has also joined us today. So he has completed his PhD from Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, and is a co-founder of C2 Sampling Education. He works in the field of education. He has designed modules on inquiry and discovery-based learning. He has also developed competency-based assessment where skills like observations, questioning, hypothesizing, analysis, critical thinking, etc. can be assessed. He was an instructor for the Dream India camp, which follows Summerhill philosophy. He has created some video content for PME Vidya initiative, where he tried to integrate some aspects of constructivist approach. So our session is also live on Facebook. We can go like this. First, Aarti ma'am will speak. After that, Tarun sir will put his part. After that, we will have a question answer session. So whatever questions we will be getting through the comments there, I will compile them and I will ask there with our speakers as the moderator. So ma'am, you can please start the session.
Yeah, a very good afternoon to you all. I'm so happy to be a part of this event. The national education policy has been the pulse of the nation, and we at NIPA have contributed significantly towards that. It was in the year, about 2015 that the policy was announced. The TSR Subramaniam Committee was located in NIPA on the second floor. And based on that, we had a report which said that these are the guidelines for the policy to evolve. And thereafter, Professor Kasturi Rangan, the great scientist, took over. And we were consulted very often. And I led two stakeholders workshop, one on governance of higher education, and the second was on making the best teachers. So with that little background, let me come straight to the topic of Digital India. the issues, challenges, and solutions. So digital India is, something that, despite its limitations, we cannot do away with that. And I think it's good because, it helps to reach out to people. They can be flexible hours where you can, learn differently. You can have multiple models of learning. And also, it will require initial very heavy investment in setting the networks and the connections, but in time to come it will reduce the cost of education, because things are already done. You just need to practice and be ready for it. There are certain very, very good points about digital India, but in a country like India, where we know that the digital divide is already very huge. And I was very happy to know that the other speaker is also from IISc Bangalore, where I'm currently located. I had come for some other work at Indian Institute of Science, and what the connectivity there was so bad that I had to step out to do this program, because the signals are very, very weak there. In fact, during our stakeholders consultation, Wi-Fi as was raised as an issue, and also many, many other things, because the technical know-how is one part of the digital India. The other part is to procurement of equipment, setting up lines, manpower to maintain that, and the cost of maintenance, which even an institute like Indian Institute of Science is facing as huge challenge. And then when it is throughout the country and to all parts of the country, you can imagine the magnitude of the problem. And if there is no maintenance and manpower for its upkeep, the technology gets very difficult to handle. Also, second point itself is that, when we visited the nanoscience lab, the rate of obsolescence of technology is so high that, by the time you get adjusted to a new technology, the other one comes in. Also, the scientists had that feeling that, our government procedures are very very long, and therefore, by the time we actually get the final go aheads, by that time the technology somebody else has taken, worked on it, and it becomes redundant. So the rate of obsolescence in technology is the highest in the current period, and therefore, the moment you upgrade to the you get used to the one technology, the other one gets obsolete. So these are two or three very, very critical issues. And of course, the geographical locations. India is a subcontinent by itself. It has deserts, it's had mountains, it's a difficult mountain areas, terrains, different kinds. So there is very different. It's difficult to, in terms of electricity and in terms of, network coverage to, put towers all around and to reach the people. Now, during the first COVID, we saw that on the tree, people were, trying to access their classes on the tree, because, the network could reach the top of the tree and not the ground. So it was, that difficult for people to be hung onto branches and to access education. So if this is the kind of situation in, say, the some of the leading cities and institutions, then you can imagine the rest. Also, my personal experience with technology has been that although we are quite technology savvy, but the moment you try to say that this is, this particular thing, this particular day is very critical and you need it, that is the day the technology will fail you. I was holding an Asia Regional Skill Symposium in which the panel was on IT, and I saw that, I had invited very good experts and the Joint Secretary of IT, and there, I don't want to name, but he said that he'll be able to handle the session. But the moment he plugged in, he just couldn't, because of the incompatibility of two devices that were there, and the one that he had got. And then everybody was laughing, and the technology session was the biggest dampener in the whole 2 to 3 days, international event. So, despite how much when we say technology, but a face-to-face learning is much more engaging, it is much more soaking, it is much more absorbing. So the engagement with technology actually dilutes this absorbing power, engaging power, and soaking power. So therefore, the next issue is that it gives the virtual is here to stay. But despite that, virtual will not really solve the problem of learning. I'm sure my other speaker will also say yes to that. And it is okay. It is in between, as a cover up, as an icing on the cake, it's fine. But the moment you say that that is the only way to learn, it goes bad. In fact, at ISC, I got to know that they in fact have started an online MTech also. So my question was, how are you handling the practicals? So in the practicals, they said that they have designed simulated. That particular online MTech has simulations that can be handled online, but not all can be done, all despite having virtual labs, virtual resources and all that. But doing the thing actually and doing it in a simulated conditions are two very different things. So, first of the major issue is to have the right kind of infrastructure, and also the maintenance and the manpower to maintain that infrastructure. That is very important. Then when we come to the actual challenges, the teachers need to be trained. The teachers need to be trained in a big way. Also the students need to be trained, because many a times what we have noticed that we have shifted, due to the COVID-19, we have shifted from face to face to online over just this thing. So our pedagogy still remains what we do in face to face. Instead of standing in the class and taking our lecture, we just sit in our cabins or wherever and take our lectures. But that's not the pedagogy for the online learning. If you need to have a 4-quadrant approach, it is more like seminar learning, where you read, you come, the teachers are there to resolve, and you have to attempt so many question and answers and say that you are now ready for the future. So sorry. So training of teachers along with training of students. Even in my class, many a times I feel that the students just switch off their camera, say that they don't have the bandwidth, and whenever you question them that okay, now you answer this, and this particular student, they would often get up and say that ma'am, it's bad network and I cannot open my camera and I cannot really do that. So these are the kind of challenges. So teacher training is a big challenge, because the pedagogy of virtual teaching is very different, and teachers need to be trained. They need to, and for that the material, they need to be taught how to set up online material, how to use material, virtual learning. All those things have to be taken care of. Also you have certain subjects are there that you just cannot teach through virtual mode, like physical education, for say example. How would you you can tell the basic theoretical parts of physical education, but one has to go out into the class to do that kind of physical education. Similarly, you can name number of things, dance, you can do the theory, but online it's very difficult to teach, because that bhav and the nuanced part of dancing will not come in that way. So there are only some subjects, and it is to my mind the basic we had the face-to-face mode, where we migrated to blended education, and the third one which is more currently in use is the hybrid education, where you use both the things, online and face-to-face, and you do the hybrid education and come out with good results. So this component of face-to-face teaching, so you can do something face-to-face, go on do something in a blended mode and hybrid mode, and that will actually help you learn. But for smaller age groups, these will not work face-to-face. In fact, during this COVID-19, the schools and colleges were closed down. We saw that maximum mental disorders have taken place. It's taken a toll on the students. There has been anxiety, there have been depression cases. In fact, IISc itself has now a mental well-being program in place, and which takes care of all these issues which have arisen sharply due to the COVID-19 situation. So there are huge issues with digital education, and it's not only here in India but abroad also. Many a times we have all this, with all that preparation, we see that number of conferences and number of other things go bad. So that happens even abroad. The challenges, as I said, that people have to adapt, people have to learn, people have to start taking it seriously, because it was taken as a makeshift kind of arrangement, but overall one has to go on to make it more effective. And then solutions are that the government will need to invest in the infrastructure, also give manpower and maintenance cost charges, and thereafter training to the teachers and other resources to be logged on. And then only with some we can work towards good digital education. So with that, I close my presentation. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your wise words. And I would request now Tarun sir to please continue the presentation.
Thanks, Aarti ma'am, and thanks, Sudhakar, for giving me this opportunity to share my views on this particular topic. And I think Aarti ma'am has done a wonderful job in terms of connecting and covering many topics with respect to that. So it makes my job slightly easier. But anyway, as the opportunity is given to me, I will just share a couple of points from my side. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat and we can discuss those. So this is the outline of my session. So we will start with what is education, then coming to digital education, then issues related to digital education, and then we will come to the solutions for those digital education. So I would like to keep this session interactive. So whoever are present in the Zoom, I would request everyone to be active. I will be asking some questions, and if you can answer those questions, that would be great. So with that, let's start with our first question. So the first question is, what is education? So I will wait for a minute. So if you can share your views on the chat. Meanwhile, if someone wants to share orally also, that is also perfectly fine. So I'm looking forward to your replies. Yeah, keywords will also do. You don't have to write down in detail, or if you want to orally speak, that is also perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think, sir, I'll take it. So this is Priyanka Kaushik this side. I am pursuing my PhD from Christ University, Bangalore. And I am very glad that I'm being part of this webinar. So my research area is on digital education itself in the higher education, ethnographic study. So yeah, so I have also done a lot of research and I'm done with my data collection. So this is one more platform where I can share my views. So yeah, I think according to me, education is a way of facilitating the moral values, the learning, and the overall development of the personal teachers as well as of the students in the schools and colleges. So you can define the education.
Correct. Thanks, Priyanka, for sharing your views. So like this, we can see, as Priyanka mentioned, about different aspects of education, right? She mentioned about moral aspect and many different aspects. So like this, we can define the education in many different ways. But to move forward, we have to take one definition and we will move forward. But it doesn't mean that that is the definition of education. So for time being, we will take this definition that education is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, value, as Priyanka mentioned, morals, beliefs, habits, behavior, personal and social development, right? So let's say if we take that as a definition of education, so we will keep that in mind. And if you want to add your own flavor to that, that is also perfectly fine, right? Now, we have talked about education. What is education? The next thing is, what is digital education, right? So I'm not going to give definition and all, but broadly, if we see, there are two aspects. One is the asynchronous mode of digital education. Second is the synchronous mode of digital education, right? So when we say asynchronous mode of digital education, it is basically through recorded videos or projects where basically both the sides are not continuously synchronizing at the same time, right? So that is what it means. So that is why it is called asynchronous. Synchronous means when the facilitator and learner are synchronized in time. So it can be online classes or it can be live things like what we are doing right now is basically a synchronous session, right? So these are the two different aspects of digital education. So whenever we are talking about digital education, we have to think from both the aspects, the asynchronous aspect as well as the synchronous aspect. And both may have different issues, challenges, and solutions. So that one thing we will keep in mind. As Aarti ma'am said, that technology is not like we replace everything with technology and we have solved the problem. That is not the case. And that's what even Donald Norman said. He said, I am not a fan of technology. I am a fan of pedagogy, which means of understanding how people learn and the most effective learning method, right? But he says that technology can enable some of these exciting changes, right? So it is not like technology will be able to solve all the problems, but it can become an enabling factor. If we see from that point of view, then it is perfectly fine. Now, coming to the issues, many of these things are already mentioned by Aarti ma'am, so I may not spend a lot of time on the points what she mentioned already. But quickly, just to summarize, so one thing she mentioned is lack of digital infrastructure, right? Then lack of connectivity. The internet issue itself is a big challenge, right? Then the next thing is lack of quality digital content, right? I will come to this point and detail in little more details. Then the lack of good digital repository. And most of the time, like at least in offline classes, we can see that sometimes at least we see two-way communication, right? But in most of the cases, particularly like if it is a recorded thing, then it becomes one-way communication, right? And then if it is one-way communication, will the learner become the passive learner? So that is a question which we should ask, right? Then lack of social interaction. Right now also we are here. So some of us are also there on the Zoom, but there is very less social communication interaction, right? Obviously, we can create the breakout rooms in the Zoom and we can do all those things, but still it is not as effective as we see in the case of offline sessions, right? The next thing is health issues, right? We see that we are continuously sitting in front of the laptop, the devices. Most of us might have the neck problem, the back problem, and many other problems, right? So health issue is also another challenge which should be addressed. And as Aarti ma'am said, that teachers are not empowered, but I should really appreciate all the teachers who has taken a lot of effort in this last 2 years. We can definitely see that they were not aware of most of the things, but they went beyond their capabilities, their capacity, have put a lot of effort to make sure that we reach to all the students and facilitate learning. So I really appreciate all the teachers. Then also students are getting distracted, right? As Aarti ma'am also said, the training of students are also needed, because if you are providing the digital resources, digital devices to them, it is also important what are they seeing and how are they using those devices, right? If they are using the social media or Facebook, WhatsApp, just for the fun, then the whole purpose is again lost. In place of digital devices helping them for learning, these can become distractors. So it is very important to address that particular issue also. So these are a couple of issues which I could think of. And again, these are not exhaustive issues. That's why you can see 3 dots here. So those 3 dots means that there are many more issues. So I have kept it open. These are a couple of issues which I have noted down. That's all. Now, what are we able to achieve using the digital education? We can think about that. So one thing is that definitely, why are we talking about all these things? Is because the reach, right? We can reach to more number of learners. So that is definitely one aspect. Second aspect, which also comes when we talk about digital education, is so basically quality and quantity, right? So we can reach to more number of people. So we are talking about quantity there. But there is also this argument about digital education that everyone may not be capable enough to teach all the students. So if we can provide the best facilitators, best teachers for the students through digital medium, then that may solve the problem. But I still have a question there, like, will it really solve the problem? Because how are we seeing the digital education? How are we seeing the education? How are we defining that? That becomes very important. If we are just thinking about the knowledge as an education, then probably up to an extent we can say yes, students might be able to have better knowledge by the education. Again, knowledge has two aspects. One is the information, second is the conceptual understanding. Information definitely they will get, but how much conceptual understanding they will get through digital education, that also we have to think about. And when I'm raising all these questions, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the solutions. I'm just raising these questions because we should think about all these questions when we are thinking about the digital education, right? The second aspect, which is about the skills, which was also mentioned in the definition of education when we have seen, knowledge, we can still understand that, or the information, at least we can understand that, okay, fine, most of the students may get through digital education. But what about the skill? How many sessions, how many courses are designed till now, which are also focusing on the skills? Because if we are just focusing on the knowledge, then that may become very difficult, because we have to also focus on the skills, as NEP is also talking about. We are looking at the holistic development of the learner. So we can't restrict ourselves to only knowledge. We have to look all these other dimensions, skills, attitude, value, belief system, many more, right? So when we are talking about the skills, we have to think that how that particular course is going to develop skills and which kind of skills. So that is a very important question to think about. So as I mentioned, we have to think about two aspects, asynchronous aspect and the synchronous aspect. Asynchronous aspect has the recorded video aspect and many other things. So I will take an example from that recorded video thing, and I believe that whatever I'm going to talk about that will also more or less apply to the synchronous aspect also. Because synchronous is still many things can be done. Asynchronous is more difficult in terms of all these aspects, whatever we are talking about, skill development, value development, and many more, right? So I will take an example of recorded video as a learning tool, and then we will discuss it further. So when I'm saying recorded video, what can be done for skill building, right? We are asking this question. So I am not talking about the knowledge anymore. We will talk about the skills. How can we use a recorded video or recorded videos to develop skills, right? So again, a question for everyone. So you see an image towards your right. Now, the question here is that what are the observations or questions coming to your mind when you are looking at the image? So look at the image very carefully. And if you can share your observations and questions.
It should be fun when you are providing learning to students.
Priyanka, are you speaking?
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
I can't hear you. Yeah, I think now it is better.
Yeah, I think it's like fun with fun. So I think it's more about that you have to put a fun when you are teaching this. Learning has to be collaborated with the fun. It cannot be monotonous.
Very interesting. Okay, that is definitely one aspect which is written on the ruler. Learn with fun. So that's interesting. Okay, what else?
Which is actually missing in today's online learning. That's what I've been observing in a lot of universities and lectures while sitting in the classes.
Correct. Definitely. So as NEP is also talking about the holistic development, and where we have these three aspects we can think of, right? Whatever we are doing, like, is it hearts-on? Is it engaging? Are we having fun? Are we enjoying when we are learning? Second is the heads-on, the thinking aspect. Is it developing some skills? And third is hands-on, as NEP is also talking about activity-based learning and all these project-based learning and all these things. So these three H's are very important. Hearts-on, heads-on, and hands-on. Wherever possible, if we can use those, that would be great. So Priyanka, thanks for sharing that observation. But yeah, if you can look at the image more carefully and see if you can come up with any other observations or questions you have. Others can also pitch in, please.
I can see a word a priori here.
Sorry?
In the text, I can see a word a priori.
Okay. Interesting.
Does it have some relevance?
Yeah. So this is an open-ended question, what I asked you. So it doesn't have a right answer. So
basically, it is about the Kantian theory of a priori and a posteriori knowledge system, which is based on empirical evidences and non-empirical evidences. So is it something related to this, that thing which you're talking about holds ground for both of the things. Like we have to educate empirically with using empirical methods and non-empirical methods as well.
Correct. Nice. Very nice. Very interesting observations and thoughts and questions no one has asked it now, but yeah, many interesting observations and thoughts coming up. Yeah, let's keep going.
Also, I want to ask you something here. I mean, you were also doing the research you already had done. So how do you think that how teachers are creating fun in the classes? I mean, I have been in the classes of the well-renowned universities, and I really find that the lectures and everything is so monotonous. In fact, rather when I was there in the classes of rural education, like the rural areas, teachers are teaching them with so much of enthusiasm. I mean, there was a totally, you know, when you were looking at the well-renowned universities and with the rural institutes. How do you, you know, want to tell probably those students find them lucky enough that they're able to access the, you know, digitally classes that they are able to access it, probably understanding the value of it. So how do you, you know, you want, what is it, how the teachers are creating, you know, that, I mean, the environment in the class so that if just, I mean, you might have observed something. So yeah.
Yeah. Very nice question. Yeah, it is not from the image, but anyway, we will take it up. So the question is that how are we creating the fun in the classroom, right? So one thing I want to address here is that when we talk about the fun, like let's say I did some activity. For example, let's say I will ask you, every one of you, that have a paper like this. Okay. If you have a paper, every one of you can quickly grab a paper. Any small strip of paper will do, something like that.
Yeah, so.
Priyanka, do you have a paper handy?
Yeah. I'm already with the register here. Yeah.
And if others can also switch on their videos if they are doing the activity, it would be helpful for me to see what is happening. Yeah, so that is another challenge, as Aarti ma'am was also mentioning, right? That most of the times videos are off, so we don't know what is happening. So, okay. So if you have taken the strip like this paper strip, just show me.
Right.
Yeah, you can show it to me.
So I'll just show you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can see. Great. Yeah, a smaller one will be better. Priyanka, if you can cut it. Yeah, as a monk has cut, if I am pronouncing the name properly.
So I'll do that. I have a small paper. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So now what I am going to do is that I am going to make two cuts. Okay, observe it very carefully. I am going to make two cuts. One cut I have made somewhere here, like 1/3 of the strip, half cut. Another cut I am going to make here, which is at another 1/3. So I have made two cuts like this. You can see.
I can't see actually what you are doing. So only your presentation is visible.
Okay. Just a minute. Let me stop sharing it. Let me. Yeah. Okay, I think I have to pin. Okay, now it should be better. Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I have done, I have made this cut here, half cut here. I have made another half cut here. So you can see that I have made two cuts like this. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so you can make cuts like that in your paper also, every one of you. Okay, yeah, perfect, great, nice. Lot of participation is happening now. I am happy. Yeah, others are happy or not, I don't know. I am very happy. Okay, so that's great. Now a question for every one of you. Don't do anything, okay? Don't do anything. Just listen to the question. So now if I pull both the sides, with the equal force, right? If I pull both the sides with the equal force, how many pieces of paper will I get? 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, or 4 pieces? You have to write down your answer in the chat. I'm repeating again. I will pull both the sides with the equal force. How many pieces? Don't do it. Yeah. So, So before we do anything, we have to predict. That is very important. So that is what we are doing right now. So let's predict. Let's make a guess. How many pieces will I get? 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 or 4 pieces?
So my guess is 1.
1. Okay, fine. Let's see what others are saying.
I think
Yes,
it's
2 pieces.
It's 2. Priyanka is saying 2. Okay. What else? 1. Okay. I got answers on the chat also. Good. I am happy that chat is also getting utilized. Nice. Okay. So let's see. So till now, 1 or 2 responses are coming. No one is saying 3 pieces or 4 pieces.
So it actually depends on what sort of a force you are putting in on which area you are putting. It also depends upon all these things. So
Definitely.
yeah.
So as I said, I'm going to apply equal force on both the sides. That's what I said, right?
Yeah.
So then how many pieces will I get?
Yeah. Two.
2. Why? Why not 3?
I think if I'm going to do this, it's going to come with 2 only.
Okay, fine. But okay, Aman, you said 1, right?
Yes, sir.
Why 1?
So just it is just a intuitive feeling that 1 ही होगा.
कटेगा ही नहीं, आप बोल रहे हो कि कटेगा ही नहीं?
No, sir, I don't think so.
Okay.
Sir, I'm still a student. We do these kind of things, so I can,
Okay, great, nice. Okay, fine. So let's try it out now.
Yes.
Sudhakar is also saying 2 pieces. Sudhakar, why not 3 pieces?
Sir, because I think when it will get torn from only one side.
Why? I have made 2 cuts, na? So that's why it should cut from both the sides, right?
But then there will, because you are applying, if you are applying equal force, then there will be some, the force of vector of the force will be in both sides. So it will not, I don't think it should cut easily in 3 pieces like you are saying. So
okay, fine. So I think that is a good enough discussion on this. So what we can do is that we predicted, we also gave the explanation for that, the explanation what we thought about. Now let's try it out. So now it is the time to observe it. Okay. So everyone can pick your piece in your hands. Okay. Among at least got 2 pieces. Good. Let's see what others are getting. Yeah, I also got 2 pieces. Priyanka also got 2. Okay, perfect. So all of us are getting 2 pieces, right? So now we can discuss again that why is it happening, and we can also discuss that what can I do to get 3 pieces, right? So that can be the extension of that. But because of the time limitation, we will not go into that direction. But the idea is that these simple things, right? We can use something very simple to make it very interesting. They may have some fun. Again, see, I can dance here, right? So if I dance and everyone dance, then also there will be enjoyment, right? Everyone will enjoy. But is the learning happening? That is a question also to be asked, right? So there can be something which is completely fun. Everyone may enjoy. But if the learning is not happening, then again we have to think about it. That is what do we want? If you want that, no problem. If you want only enjoyment, no problem. But if you also want learning, then we have to keep questioning that, am I only doing something which is making something fun, or are they also learning? So that is very important, right? So here, again, same activity I could have done, right? Any hands-on activity, most of the people will enjoy, right? Any hands-on activity, most of the people will enjoy. Even I would have given you the instruction. I would have asked you to make something. Let's say you made a tortoise using a paper, right? I will give all the instruction. I'm sure after that you will play with it and you will enjoy, right? But if I'm giving all the instructions to you, are you using your head? No, right? So it is a hands-on activity, which is also a fun activity, but it is a heads-off activity. Like I did my engineering, and most of the time in my engineering, I did lab activities, right? But most of the times, even during 11, 12, all the instructions are given in the manual, right? Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. And observe the result. You have told me everything what to do. What is my role in that, right? And that is what digital education should not do, right? So if everything, so we should not make learning simple. So generally there is this tendency that we should make learning simple so that people can easily understand it. But should we really make the learning simple? That is a question again we have to ask. Because I'll quickly tell this story of a caterpillar, okay, who is in a cocoon. So it is at that butterfly stage, okay, and it is trying to come out. Now, when it is trying to come out, we can see that the butterfly is trying to tear apart the cocoon little bit here and there, okay, and there's this child who is observing that from a far distance. So child thinks that, okay, butterfly is struggling, I should definitely go and help the butterfly. And the child goes and open the cocoon and the butterfly comes out, right? Anyone has heard this story? Okay, no? Okay, if you have not heard, can you guess what will happen to the butterfly? So is the story clear? Butterfly was struggling, was not able to fly. Why?
Won't be able to fly because it is not using its natural instincts to break the cocoon and fly on its own. It is getting help from external forces.
Correct. So the butterfly might have developed some strength during that process, right? But child has taken away that struggle. Child has taken away that struggle, so the butterfly didn't develop those strengths. Again, whether that is right scientifically or not, that is a different thing. But this story is giving a very nice message that when we think that we are helping someone, again, we have to ask the question, are we really helping, right? So when so I was also attending a webinar a couple of months ago, one of the webinar, and they used a very interesting term called frenemy. Frenemy. It is made of two words, friend and enemy. Okay. So the child thought that I am doing a work of a friend, but unknowingly child has done a work of an enemy, right? So it is very important to, so when, let's say a child is asking a question, should we answer the child? That is a question which we are asking now. What do everyone think? If a child asks a question, so Priyanka asked the question to me, should I answer that question?
I think rather you should make them think and
yeah,
then.
Priyanka, again, your voice is gone. Mute and unmute again.
I think it's more important that you first, let that other observe and then probably to come back like the activities you have. That is the best part to do it. Because then it's very easy for students to Google also and get an answer if you're asking like this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So if I directly answer, then I am not developing any skills in the learners, right? But when I am asking a cross question, then I am giving the opportunity for them to think. And when I am giving them the opportunity to think, their thinking skill is getting developed. So it is very important that when someone is asking a question, not directly give the answer, right? And if I am giving the answer, I am giving the answer according to me, right? But when I am asking a question, probably I may get a different perspective. Who knows?
Very true. Very true.
Right. So that is very important. So coming back to the fun question, question on fun. So these are the things which we can do during the session, and definitely it will have some enjoyment aspect. But I don't want, as I said, it is very important to differentiate between fun activity and fun and learning activity. It should not only be fun activities if that is not the object, right? So I can see that some teachers are doing that. But again, in online setting, because most of the people keep their videos off, which is happening here also. But anyway, so that is a challenge in the online setting.
Actually, so what I think also have become more accountable than students. I mean, teachers ko hota hai, we have to present a video. बात नहीं कर सकते, right left नहीं कर सकते, because when you are in a when you are there in the class, you have other things also to share with the students. But when you only have to record the things and your recordings are going to the management, the teachers are becoming more these days. So they are very, very cautious of speaking everything.
Correct.
का तो zero हो गया है, teachers का accountability बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है.
Correct. सही बात है, बिल्कुल. ठीक है, तो वापिस अपने presentation पे जाते हैं. Yeah, thanks Priyanka for asking that question. Okay, great. So now I will point out some things and then you have to observe again and see if you come up with some more observations, right? Now just look at this scale part, okay, the ruler part. Just look at it and see if you can come up with some more observations.
I think they're proud of new system. So a new system of education. If I just connect with that. Yeah.
Correct.
Willing to
So-
accept, teachers are not willing to accept the digital education itself. I know a lot of professors, this is again an observation, when they have said to the younger generation, probably you can take the lectures this time and in the next semester I'll cover your part. Like those senior professors were not accepting to, take this digital classes also.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
yeah, one thing.
Okay, so now don't read the text, okay?
Yeah.
So don't read the text, just see the text through the scale. Do you see something?
Vigor is, I think, one word which is coming downstairs. Right?
Do you see some words here? Do you see
synthesis of science, something like that?
Do you see synthesis here? Right? And there is another synthesis here. A very small. If you are from the laptop, I think you should be able to see. There is one synthesis here, there is another synthesis here. Right?
Yes, sir.
But it is from the same text. Okay, so on the print, there are no two syntheses. Okay, but when we are seeing through a ruler, we are seeing two copies of that. Right? So why is it happening? That is a question again we can ask. Any quick thoughts on that before we move forward? Why are we seeing two copies? Is the question clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay.
It's a reflection.
All of you have the right to be wrong. Okay, all of you have the right to be wrong. So don't worry. I'm not looking for the right answer. Just share what comes to your mind. That's all. Yeah, Priyanka, you were saying something? You are on mute. You are on mute.
I think it's a reflection, something. I'm not very sure. I mean, is it reflecting? Not very sure.
Fine. But that's perfectly fine. So we don't have to discuss the reason here. But you see here, now we have seen this image from multiple perspectives. Some of these perspectives I also never thought when I put this image. The fun aspect which you mentioned, I never thought about it. Even what others mentioned that about what was that? Willingness to accept and a priori concept and all these things. I never thought about that. I was just looking at this particular aspect that when I'm seeing through the scale, I see multiple copies of the same text. I just saw from that perspective. But when I opened this up to others, I got these multiple other perspectives also. So that is very important, right? So here again, I am giving an opportunity for the learners to exercise their skills. So what are these skills here? Did you exercise any of the skills right now? What are the skills did you exercise when we were discussing about this slide? And any thoughts?
When it is left for others to think, so you probably see scenario with different perspective. So
correct. Yeah. So one is that perspective aspect, what we are talking about, right? Second thing is that observation skill, right? We are observing the same thing from multiple lenses, multiple dimensions. So that is the skill which we are developing. Then making connections, right? All of you made connection with whatever was there with the today's topic, right? So all these are the skills which you are exercising right now. So I just gave that as an opportunity and you exercise that skill. But most of the times in the digital session, this kind of things are missing, right? Because it becomes one-way communication, or even if we make it two-way, most of the times the focus is on the knowledge. Very few times the focus is on the skills. And here we can see that we are discussing a little bit about the skills and also about the values, about the perspectives, attitude, right? So that is an interesting dimension here. Okay. Second thing is that, see, I may ask a question, but if I quickly move forward, right, then again the purpose is lost. So whenever I am asking a question, I have to give some pause time. So I should make silence as my friend. If I hate silence, then again it will not work, right? I have to make friendship with the silence because I have to allow that pause times for others to think. Thinking doesn't happen quickly. It needs time. So whenever I'm asking a question, I should give some time for others to think. That is very important. So even in the digital session, even in the recorded session, if we ask a question and if we can wait for a few seconds at least, let's say we give a pause of 5 seconds, 6 seconds, I think that pause would be very helpful, even in the recorded session, right? I'm not saying it is enough, but it may help a little bit. So that is another point which I wanted to stress here. Now, second aspect is that we are talking about the content, digital content aspect, but what about the quality of that, right? As I mentioned, if we are just using explanatory content, if we are making the learning simple, which we have seen that making learning simple is not a solution, because by making something simple, we are not helping. We are probably hurting, right? So in place of using digital medium as a medium for explanatory content, can we create the content which can trigger observations, questions, develop thinking skills, any other skills, values, perspectives? That would be great. So I think that is a very important aspect when we are working on digital education. Developing this quality digital content, that is very important. Okay, so I am almost at the end of my session, but yeah, I quickly wanted to point out some of the solutions. Again, these are not very exhausted solutions. These are only some of the solutions. So as I already mentioned, creating quality digital content, that is the first aspect. Second aspect also I have covered, giving the opportunity to exercise learners' skill. We have to give some wait time so that they can think, reply, that is very important, right? And as Aarti ma'am already mentioned, empowering teachers, that is very important, right? So again, see, when we are talking about offline education, we are talking about constructivist approach, we are talking about inquiry-based learning, we are talking about discovery-based learning, and many different kind of learning. But when it comes, and there at least some teachers do also all this kind of pedagogies. But when it comes to the digital education, most of the time it is only lecture-based method, right? So can we break that? In place of using lecture-based method, can we do the constructivist approach in an online way, on an online medium, right? Can we do the learner-centric pedagogy? Like here as Priyanka, so did we do anything learner-centric today? During the session, did I do anything learner-centric?
Certainly, so the activity which you made us do, it was a learner-centric itself. So
no, but
yeah.
that activity I gave, not you, right?
That's true. But learner-centric, you want to say is like I am learning from that. That's what you want to say?
No. Learner-centric means you are driving the session, not me.
Oh, you are driving the session only.
Sir, we can say that you every time you did not answer first, you actually asked everyone, like, what do you think about the issue? Then everyone at least pondered on the issue. So that brainstorming was there, discussion was there. Yeah. So at least we were participants. Correct. We are not just like listening to you only.
Correct. Nice. So that is one very nice aspect Sudhakar mentioned. Great. Anyone else?
It's a two-way communication. That is why it has become a learning. Else, it wouldn't have been possible if you have just continued with your slides. I think then it was just a session of one-way communication. So the more we are, I think that is the reason why it became a more of learner-centric communication.
Correct. So two-way definitely brings that aspect. But more than that, some of you asked some questions, right? And I took those forward. Like I didn't say that was not in my plan of lesson. That was not in my lesson plan. And I will not take it up. Then it becomes teacher-centric. I am doing what I want to do, right? But when I am allowing this thing where learner is saying something and I am taking it forward and developing that in a learning opportunity, then it becomes learner-centric. Again, there are different levels of that. We have done only a little bit of that. We can do much more than that. So, but the point what I am trying to drive here is that we have to empower teachers for learner-centric pedagogy, even for digital education, right? That is very important. The next thing, which as Aarti ma'am was saying, and I want to take it to the next level. So Aarti ma'am already mentioned about the teacher empowerment. I want to take it to the next level. So in place of only empowering teachers, we also have to empower teacher educators, right? Whether it is in service or pre-service, both. Particularly if we see the B.Ed education, most of the times it is lecture-based method, even in the offline setup, right? Even the constructivist approach will be taught by lecture-based method, inquiry, discovery-based learning, whatever kind of pedagogy we talk about, everything is taught in the same manner. Now, if everything is taught in the same manner, B.Ed students don't have experience of creating lesson plans in any other way. They only know one way to create lesson plan, which is lecture-based method. So it is very important that B.Ed educators, B.Ed teachers also have an immersive experience of this learner-centric pedagogy or whatever pedagogies they are teaching. They should first experience it. And once they experience it, let B.Ed students also experience it in their classes. So that is very important, right? Then again, Aarti ma'am mentioned about the labs. And I want to also stress on that when we are creating labs, we are saying we have created simulation. But again, if we are not giving freedom for the students to modify, interact with it, then again, the purpose is lost. If we give all the instruction what to do on that simulation, then the purpose is lost. But if the child is using it in his or her own way and trying to figure out something new, then the purpose of the virtual lab or the simulation lab will be fulfilled, right? So it is very important to keep this interactive aspect, the freedom aspect, when we are using the simulations and virtual lab. And the last thing, which is about laying down the standards for digital education. We are talking about a lot in terms of other, like our standard education, but even for the digital education, what do we really want, right? So that is very important. And then how will we achieve it? And then assessment for that, whether we are achieving that or not. So that is another very important aspect. So I think that's all from my side. And thanks everyone for participating in the session. Without that, I think I would not have enjoyed. I definitely enjoyed. So thanks a lot. Yeah, we can take some questions or anything.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So I have received some questions. I think I can ask a couple of them. After that, because the audience already was very interactive, so I think some of them will also be having something in their mind. So they can ask some and then we can move towards the finish. So the questions are related to what you spoke only, sir. So like you talked about teacher preparation, that because of the COVID situation, the teachers were not prepared to to move towards digital education, but still they played their best part. So coming to this, like even in this budget, there is a big push for digital e-content. A lot of schemes have been announced for that. So, but when we are teaching or studying in digital mode, then the pedagogy also has to change. The presentation also has to change. During discussion, we talked that sometimes the videos are not interesting. The children are not at all learning anything. So how do you see a solution to this issue? Like we can move towards that. Even in an EP, we talk about for normal physical degrees also up to 40% can be done in digital education once academic bank of credits, etc. Provisions are in place. So how do we ensure that the education is quality, interactive, and interesting for the student, especially for the students in younger age, like in school, who are curious? So how to ensure that and ensure that quality?
Correct. Yeah. So as I think I already talked about the B.Ed education. So I think there are two aspects. One is that we have to go from top-down approach, right? So where are we getting the teachers from? We are getting the teachers from B.Ed colleges, right? Where are we? How are they trained, and who are training them? B.Ed educators are training them. So if we go there and if we start working there and let them experience first all these things, because school education, at least there are a lot of trainings happening, right? There are many organizations who are working in the field. Many NGOs are working in the field. Even the government is having a lot of trainings for the teachers. But I could see very few trainings, almost negligible trainings for the B.Ed educators, B.Ed teachers, right? So if they have not experienced, how will they make others experience, right? If I don't know how to drive a car, how can I help anyone else to drive a car? That is impossible, right? So first I have to learn how to drive a car. First I have to learn that particular pedagogy, and then only I can allow others to experience it, right? So that is one important aspect. Second aspect is, I think, about the belief system, right? I think whoever is in the field of education, we have to ask this question that, so generally there is a lot of emphasis on why question and how question, particularly in science, right? They say why questions and how questions are better questions than the what questions. But I feel that what questions are equally important or probably more important, right? Because most of the times what gives us definition, right? When I said what is education, we came up with a definition. And if we are wrong with the definition, then the how aspect will also be wrong for that, right? So if I say science is about collecting the facts, if I give the definition of science as this, I will teach also in that way. But if I say science is about understanding the nature, again, I will try to make students understand the nature. But if I say science is about figuring out something or figuring out the explanation for the phenomena which we see in the nature, then I will allow the learner to experience in that way. So I think it is very important to ask this what question about each and everything, right? And then see that what do we believe in and what do others believe in, and is there a mismatch, right? And if there is a mismatch, then who is wrong, who is right? That may not be wrong, but yeah, let's collect different perspectives and then experiment with it, right? We can allow learners to do something, allow the teachers to do something, and see whether by that change some change is happening in the learning or not. So in summary, I think two aspects. One is that the top-down approach from the B.Ed educators. Second is about questioning our belief system about the education and then working towards that. Even for similarly, what is digital education? How is it different than the normal education? We have to ask as many questions as possible and try to figure out the answer for those questions and then come up with solutions. So that is what I will say.
Right. Very well answered, sir. Thank you for this. Another thing which came to my mind while listening to you, it is more of a practical question. During this COVID period, so a lot of research studies which are actually ongoing. So what they are saying is that during those 2 years, students have actually lost a lot. Like they have not put a lot of effort. Even the exams are online, so they took some help, put book it aside, or had already had notes discussed with their friends, and then gave exams. So it was not proper. So how to ensure this, that the online education is not becoming an excuse to actually run from studies? Like even when the question came for reopening of universities or colleges, many of the people told that let us give online exam first, then we can think of reopening. So how to balance that aspect, that education is happening in a proper way and we are actually getting the benefits or the scales that we can get from digital education, that is.
Correct. Yeah, so I think again, very important question. And again, I think more or less it is similar question for me if I compare it with the earlier question. Because again, students are not doing, right? Wherever we are talking about, we have to ask, we have to think about this motivation aspect, right? What is the incentive for someone to learn, right? So what is the incentive for teachers to teach or facilitate the learning, right? We have to ask that question about the motivation. So if we see, if we are saying that whatever you are learning today will be helpful for you tomorrow or after a few years when you get a job, then again, it is a very distant goal. And every learner may not be able to connect to that distant goal, right? And finally, if we ask, why are we learning? Okay, we will get a job. What will we do once we get a job? We may get money. Okay, what will we do with the money? We will do something so that we enjoy, right? So these kind of answers may come. So if the final goal is enjoy, right? If the final goal is joy, enjoy, happiness, pleasure, why don't we do it on a daily basis, right? If the students experience the joy of learning, as Feynman said, right, in his book, Pleasure of Finding Things Out, if students start experiencing this pleasure of finding things out by themselves, I think most of the problems will be solved. But we have to reach that level that where we don't think about the goal of education as future thing, but think that education is for present, for that particular moment where the student is enjoying, where the learner is enjoying. So I think that enjoyment aspect and the motivation aspect is very helpful. So we have to change our way of teaching, the content and everything, so that student not only have the fruit of that in future, but also enjoy in the present moment and also have the learning, as I said earlier.
Also, I would add something here. While I was discussing with the students were saying these Google Meet, WebEx, all these platforms are actually not, the one for a digital education, just because the pandemic has pushed or forced us to adopt these platforms. So these are the only things where we have access to online education. So I think a lot of students who were telling probably a better solution would be कि ऐसा कोई platform बने जिस पर actually digital जो online education है which we can achieve it. ये एक होता है ना मजबूरी में we had these platforms, but these are not the proper platforms which were impart to the students. So I think probably a government has to do a better thing with creating such platforms to give 40% of the syllabus through online education.
Tarun, can you put more focus on?
We had this Swayam earlier, NPTEL. Yeah, you want to say something? I forgot your name.
Tarun, can you put more focus on AR, VR technology? Can it be a game changer?
Yeah, so I will come to that. Before that, just adding to what Priyanka said. So we had this Swayam or NPTEL earlier also, or similarly, we had many MOOCs, right? We had the Coursera and many others. But those are mainly for the recorded things. So it is more like asynchronous mode.
So the students are not actually using those courses which are present, or rather they are more what you will say, they prefer the lectures which are being recorded by the other professors, especially abroad. So I mean we need to build a quality on that, क्योंकि वो कह रहे हैं कि उस lecture को 1 घंटा सुनना और बाहर के 40 minutes को into 2 में सुनना, it's equal thing. So I think what exactly you need, that the recording of the quality of the education which we are giving through these platforms is very important. Just for sake of giving कि हाँ हमारे पास भी है ये, that won't work it. So we need to provide that quality to the students.
Correct. Definitely, completely agree. So coming to the question on AR and VR, see, we can always create this technology. We can create the content also using this technology for the education. But again, we have to ask this question that what is the purpose of that, right? So let's say I have created a beautiful experience of the zoo, okay, where all the animals, so you put that and then you will see a lot of animals coming and going and all these things, right? But if I can really go to a zoo nearby, that is much better, na? Why do I have to see that through AR and VR, right? Because there is no substitute to the personal experience. AR and VR will not help us in that. And also when we are going there to the zoo, many other things are happening, right? We are not just seeing those animals, learning about those. We are going in the group. A lot of socialization is happening. A lot of team discussion is happening. A lot of informal things are happening. And there I can change it, right? Let's say I don't want to see it. I will move in some other direction. Or I may focus for half an hour only on a bird. Or I might just see the ant moving. I will wonder why the ant is moving, right? All these possibilities are there in AR and VR. I can introduce something. So let's say I have put a stick where the ant was moving. And now I will see whether the ant will move further on top of that or not, right? I can't do all these things in AR and VR, right? So I don't think AR and VR are the tools which will solve the problem. Again, all these are very fancy tools. It gives that, oh, wow, it is so wonderful, right? So it is enjoyment aspect is there. Learning aspect is also there a little bit. But I think personal experience, we don't have a substitute of the personal experience.
Sir, I also have a question. I was listening to you, and so I have a question regarding the security or the privacy of the teachers. For example, if a teacher want to teach something, and he or she knows that he is being recorded, while teaching in the Zoom, he or she is being recorded, and when a teacher is teaching in a physical environment, he or she can say anything. If she wants to criticize any politician or maybe a corporation, she can do that. But the moment she is teaching in a Zoom platform, she knows that she is being recorded. So things are going to be different. So how can we deal with this? That is point number one. So point number two, as you have said about the AR, VR, you have, sir, given the example of zoo. But for example, sir, if I want to see a Eiffel Tower, I'm sitting in New Delhi and I want to see a Eiffel Tower and I want to learn about it. So, sir, in that case also AR, VR can be helpful. If you want to see some remote location, a location which is not situated where I'm living. So, sir, I think in that perspective, it can be useful. That is, yes, sir.
Definitely. So I'm not saying that these tools are not useful, but I'm saying where should we not use it? Okay, so definitely we should not use it for the places where we can personally experience those things. Because what happens that once we have this content, we keep building the content for all the experiences, right? So we'll build the content for a post office also. We will build the content for the hospital also. We will build the content for, let's say, some other place also. Now, students are seeing all these places through also AR and VR, because now the effort is not required to go there, right? It makes it very simple, right? So at least for those places where we have the accessibility, we should not create the content, according to me. Again, there can be different views on that. But yeah, for example, Eiffel Tower, yes, if someone wants to see it, why not? Let them see. But again, the question to be asked is that why do we want to see the Eiffel Tower, right? What are we learning out of that? If it is only about knowledge, again, whether the AR and VR are helping only in the information, or are they helping in the conceptual understanding, skills, value, attitude, all these aspects, what we talked about during the education, defining the education, right? So that is another question to be asked. But yeah, I don't have issue using AR, VR, but we have to think about all these dimensions. Coming to the first question about security, yeah, I don't have a solution for that. But I think on a lighter note, I think teachers should just switch off the recording for some time, say something, and then again start it. But again, I think we should not also be frightened. Like, definitely there are some issues and all. Once it comes to the life threat and all these kind of things are there, then it is definitely a problem. But I think because if the constitution is also saying that we should be a rational citizen, right? Then we should have the rational dialogue during education also. So I think if the teacher is having a rational dialogue on any of the topic, or about any of the politician or any of the philosophy, I don't think we should take it otherwise. Because if the constitution is saying that we have to create the rational citizen, and if we are having the rational dialogue, and if we are opposing that, then we are contradicting the constitution. So I think
Democracy.
that is
So probably better word is democracy in education should be there.
correct.
Yeah. So I want to ask you something that as you were saying that there are a lot of private players, right? They are playing a big role. I mean, all these, Zoom and the Byju's and all these are playing such a big role. They're actually creating a environment in the mind of the people that whether they are forced to use these platforms. So what are your views on this market, which is, literally sucking the mind of the people in this way? I mean, more towards capitalization, they are taking, education. So what are your views on the market players?
Yeah, so actually, I also come from the private company only. But anyway, so question is asked, so I think we should definitely discuss that. Yeah, so I think we have to ask this question that why are we in this field, even as a private player, right? If the goal is only to make money, then we should really think about it
Exactly.
as a private player, that did we come to this field to make money? If that is the yes, if the answer is yes, and I'm not saying that when I'm asking or saying about the money, we should not do it. Obviously, everyone needs sustainability. So at least that much they should earn, whether they are in the field of education, health, or anywhere. So we should definitely think about it. But are we going beyond that? If we are just becoming, as Priyanka used this word, capitalization, right? If you are just thinking from that point of view, then I think there is a bigger concern. And there, I think the role of parents will come into play, right? So why are we falling in trap of all these things? That is a question again we have to ask, right? So one thing is that aspiration, right? Everyone feels that they're like, parents need best for their children, right? So they think that, okay, if someone is giving me best thing, why don't I take it? So then they don't think about money, they take loan, whatever they need to do, they do all these things because they need best thing for their children. So I think there should be a lot of dialogue. As we are having this dialogue, I think there should be a lot of community dialogue. There should be a dialogue with the parents and discuss all these things. That what do we really want out of education, right? So is the purpose of education only to get a job, or to, someone said very nicely, the role of education to make a human being to being human. Someone just changed the order, and that is very interesting aspect, right? So if that is the objective, then parents, community, society has to think about it. And I think once we have enough number of dialogues, I think we will slowly come out of that. It will take definitely a lot of effort. It is not an easy task, but I feel that with those dialogues, it might be helpful.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for asking all these questions. All these questions were food for thought for me also. I have also not thought about all these questions or most of the questions earlier. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. It was really a very exhilarating session and very nicely explained by you, interactive for all of us. So, the key takeaways which we can take today are that initially ma'am started speaking, so she talked about the lack of infrastructure which is there. So that has to be filled up. And then she also talked about that the situation should not create a day where we are having a big digital divide. So, and she also told that not only having or building the infrastructure, but also the manpower needed for the necessary maintenance of that infrastructure. After that, when you were speaking, we interacted and did a lot of activities also here, which were interesting. So you focused on many things like there should be proper preparation for e-content also. The presentation has to be nice, interactive for the students, and so that they learn while enjoying the process. And also through digital, we can have mass reach, which was point was there in one of your slides. And one of the very most important things which I found while you were speaking is that we should not study only for the sake of getting something or to get some job, but we should enjoy the process, because education not only has instrumental value, but has intrinsic value in its own as well. So one should study for the sake of studies only. So I think with this line, this can be called as one of the summaries or highlights of today's session. I would like to thank our both the speakers, sir and ma'am, who spoke very nicely and actually gave us ample time to clear all of our queries. I would like to thank Center of Policy Research and Governance, CPRG, for organizing this very timely and contemporary session. Digital education is the way forward. And obviously, we need to engage, talk, and formulate some relevant policies for the same. I would like to also thank Dr. Ramanand Pandey, who is the Honorary Director of the CPRG, for inviting me here to moderate this session. And finally, would like to thank all the participants who participated through the Zoom meeting, and also the other audience who would have joined through our YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much. We can now formally end this session.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Ramanand sir.
Thank you, Tarun, for joining us. And last minute, Pankaj told me about you, and thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot for providing the opportunity.